Uh, Welcome to the regular, special, actually, this is the special meeting of the, I believe, special meeting.
Yes.
Yes, special meeting of the Cambria Community Services District Board of Directors, Fire Protection Standing Committee. We have a full quorum. All 5 members are here. And welcome. Thank you for making the time of this special date, which accommodated some scheduled demands that we had. I had, among others. So I'm glad you're all here, and we're all here safe and sound. In good shape. All good. We're good. That's good to know. I don't have a chair report per se. I wanted to let people know that the staff communications and committee member reports on 1D will include all the basically the reports from the recent from fire chief and general manager about the progress of the community level organization. So we'll get to that as part of that as part of 1D. As I said, no chair report, but I would like first, before the staff communication, to ask if there are any committee members have individual reports on their activities that are relevant to the committee, or on and just brief comments that can make or questions. I would first like Mr. Pearson first.
Yeah, I would like to swap A and B. I asked former Chief Putney to be here to discuss B with me. So
that's the Cal Poly student reports.
Yeah, can we swap A and B for regular business?
Anybody have a problem with that? I don't. So A and B, 4A will be taken after 4B. And we'll just note that in the minutes. Tony.
We heard yesterday of the high level of compliance with the fuel abatement program. And I wanted to compliment Matthew and Holly, everyone who worked on that so diligently. And I hope it relieves some of the pressure on our fire crews to do inspections. I was really happy to see that level of compliance higher than ever, apparently.
Yeah, I second that. I have not seen many really lots left. There may be a handful out there, but not like in previous years. So we did a very good job of getting the word out.
Yeah, Chief and I talked yesterday, and we don't have the final count, anywhere between 160 and 178 failed parcels. Last year we were close to 290. The year before that, as we know, it was 500 with another 300 that were left off the list.
Yeah.
For some internal miscommunications. So we're down significantly. So I think a lot of that outreach, consistent blasts from Haley, notices that were sent out, a lot of public discussion. We're hoping eventually each year we chip away at it to where we get more compliant.
I think it's fair to say we're getting a handle on it.
Okay, yeah.
Good.
We're for sure moving in the right direction. And so to piggyback on what Matt just said, I gotta give credit to those guys back there that they feel not only during the inspections, they went out and absolutely destroyed that. We had it done in one day. With a little bit of bleed over the second day, and we went through, but what I really want to commend them for is taking so much of the load off, especially the captains taking so much of the load off of my shoulders, fielding calls. I mean, call after call after call in preparation for all of this. And so it's not just this time of year, it was the entire year. These guys are in there just handling calls, literally just putting fires out, so to speak. And I think that really attributed to this success that we have, because they gave them the correct information. They were walking them through a lot of the processes, which takes a ton of time. And so the fact that they had the ability to do that was outstanding. And I don't think we've ever had that before. So kudos to them and others. Just, I know they're here, but the entire group of people, every single one of them stepped up. So hats off to them.
Good. But if there's no more committee member comments, I move this over to staff communications, which means anybody actually, Chief Ruby and General Manager McElhaney could comment on what's been done last month, since last meeting, on the various initiatives we have here, and especially, I'm especially interested in the community engagement
Yeah,
part of it.
so we created as most of you might have received in the mail, we created I don't know, it was close to 10 pages.
It was 10 pages. Yeah, it was
A 10-page document that tried to explain to the best of our ability, fire hazard fuel reduction program, our defense with base ordinance, weed abatement. I mean, you name it, try to break it down as simply as we could. And we mailed it to every single parcel in the district, which was costly. But we were able to get that information out, along with the ability to sign up for the CCSD newsletter. Spoke a little bit about community liaisons. Ms. Dodson and myself are working on a fire preparedness page that has a lot of the things that we were talking about, go bags, readyslow.org. And so that's under construction, and we'll eventually have that available to the public. And so we've got a lot of good feedback on it. And we were able to get out to residents that may not be paying attention to email, or not on our listserv, or not on social media. So we tried to get that in the hands of every resident. And so that was a big step forward for us. May have helped with some of our weed abatement compliance. So we're pretty excited about that. What else, Chief?
I was just working with Haley, but the chipping event that we wanted to make sure we advertise that's going on right now from the Fire Safe Focus, or Fire Safe Council. But yeah, I think we're, again, doing an outstanding job of communicating to the public and getting good information out. And there's been amazing documents given to our neighborhood liaisons that, like I said, just it's unprecedented, the amount of education that's going out. And we had our neighborhood liaison meetings yesterday, and so now we're moving forward to having kind of smaller meetings within the actual neighborhoods, going out into those neighborhoods. So you might hear something about that soon. And I think I think we're just moving forward, baby steps. We're trying to get to a goal, but I think we're moving slowly in that direction. We have to move relatively slowly because we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, and we want to make sure that this continues to be organized and structured in a way that it's not just going to become chaotic and confusing. And so, yeah, I think I can't say enough about it. I think we're doing a great job.
Any questions from the committee members here?
And I don't see the chipping days on.
It's on the website.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask about publicity for that, because I do notice, I'm doing some work in my house, but I do notice that people are having work done around their homes, by tree, services, cutting away stuff. And I had to kind of find the scheduling for the chipping, because I knew about it. And I don't know if it was publicized quite as much as it could have been, because I signed up for it. But I went to the website and, like we're supposed to do, but I don't know if you're getting much uptake of people signing up for it.
It's not, it's
Oh,
not managed by CSD.
I mean, it's actually, it's the Fire Safe Council, but the question is, does the CCSD want to do a little more last minute publicity for it? Because the deadline's the 11th for signing up.
It's been out in every GM letter for the last month, so.
I think
We can put a blast out.
Yeah.
you have no way of knowing, but that's why you have no way of knowing how many people are
It's a fire safe
making
council.
appointments. It's not it's not the CCSD activity that part.
I don't know if this is a relevant comment right now, but I saw, reading about the Madre fire, there were a long list of evacuation zones that were published. And so relevant to that, I was having coffee with a bunch of guys, and I said, "Oh, do you know your evacuation zone?" And they said, "No, we don't know what that is." And these are pretty knowledgeable people. So, I've looked mine up, but I think that's something that you're going to have to communicate out to that you're going to have to get to the community, that they need to learn that in case there is an emergency here.
And I thought we did that as well last
We
year.
did, we've
Yeah.
done, yeah, for sure, and it's not, and to your point, we've done that, we've gone through that.
I know, I think it's a constant.
Yes.
You're gonna have to push it out over and over again until people get the idea that they need to know that.
Yeah, and we're, you know, I'll restate exactly what I said earlier, which I feel like we're doing a better job than we ever have, but there's still a long road ahead of it. There's so many avenues we need to get, and do more, you know, it's not like it's a one and done thing and we're done. And that's good information to have for me to hear, but, moving forward, you know, we can only do so much, right? You can bring the horse to water,
Right.
so to speak, but, and I think we're doing that, but we can do more and we'll continue to get that message out there. And I think I've said most of the board meetings anyway, that, you know, they're always available to come by the fire department. I've said, I'll literally walk them through if they need it. So spread that word, and we'll do more outreach as well, so.
One thing that I've noticed with the evacuation zones, makes them hard for me to remember, is that it's an alphanumeric number and letter, a letter and a number. And I think if there's some way that people can know that, say, you know, name the neighborhoods or name the zone for something like, Marine Terrace is basically a zone. My part of Lodge Hill, Lower Lodge Hill is a zone. Another part of Lower Lodge Hill is a zone. You can, you know, just give them a name, because I think that would be easier for people to remember. And I've been told it many times. I keep remembering, I don't know, E13 or whatever, you know, it's a hard thing to remember, just a number.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any, you know, content to it like a name does.
And that's kind of through the county. They're the ones that have that information. They're the ones that kind of control all of that. And so it's important to remember that it's not just Cambria. The entire county has these zones. And so another important factor is to remember that the important thing about the zones is if you're not in your zone, say you're traveling or you're out of town, maybe you're in San Luis shopping or whatever, and you get an alert for your zone, that would be really, I don't want to downplay it, but that would be the only time that you really need to know your zone. If you're in your zone at your home, you don't need to know your zone. You're going to get the alert. The alert's going to come to your zone regardless. So you're going to get that information. And even travelers to this area are going to get that zone alert. And it's going to tell you, you're in a zone that needs to be evacuated. So the only thing, like I said, I don't want to downplay it. You need to know your zone, and that's a very good thing. Because if you, like I said, if you're out of your area and you say, you get an alert or said, hey, zone 13 is going to be evacuated, you need to know that that's your zone and to call your family or let them know. But if you're in your zone at home, again, you're going to get the alert no matter what. So just to clarify that, I should say.
Okay, yeah,
You know what I mean?
kind of beginning to understand how the system works.
Yeah.
Tony, yeah.
We talked about it a little bit at the liaison meeting yesterday, and that's the constant drumbeat of this campaign coming from multiple voices and sources, from the fire department, from CCSD, from the Red Cross, from CERT. The more you can start just getting this message out there. And I think we're all doing that, and there is critical mass in this direction. That said, I had an epiphany the other morning, and that was, well, I realized, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom and Matthew, I didn't see that you had to campaign for your position on the board. Matthew, I didn't see that you had to, I didn't see signs saying Matthew is our man, vote for Matthew. There's not a culture of,
I wouldn't have got the votes.
but there's not a culture of public campaigning here. And that, I think, it sets us back. We don't have, other than the skate park, oddly enough, I didn't see great community organization for a cause. Maybe politically, it looked like a skate park, but I don't see a culture of campaigning. I think that sets us back in what we're trying to do. We don't have big banners up. We don't have a constant drumbeat. Even respectfully, you know, when this dropped, it kind of came out of the blue. There was no real context for it. And then we did some Red Cross meetings last week after this was mailed. And 4 out of the 5 homes claimed they hadn't gotten it or didn't see it or weren't paying attention to it. hard to evaluate that,
Yeah.
but there's something that's not uh, grabbing at times, and I don't know what the solution is, but but I think we all need to up our game in the campaign, even, you know, as we'll get to this, the assessments. I think you have to kind of pave the road for that before you announce it. You pave the road for the needs of the fire department before you get to, and we're gonna propose this assessment. And I'm not a PR strategist, but I think there's stuff there that can be done.
That's a really interesting point. I think there's multiple things going on there that it makes it difficult to get the word out to communities the community on an issue. And it's true. I mean, this year we didn't have campaigns. I mean, I ran for office in 2020, went door to door, and there was, you know, a lot of stuff. That was COVID, which made it a little more difficult to reach people, you know, in a group. But we have Cambria has a long history of a lot of politics locally. It's just that recent years, it may be that the grassroots energy is a little bit less than it was. I mean, the grassroots organizations of various kinds, advocacy groups, they're not as visible. The lack of local media, of a newspaper, of a media that everybody goes to, you know, not just segmented into various, you know, Facebook groups and next door. That's a big problem. You know, what I think Tony might be alluding to too, you know, indirectly, because we talked about this a few months ago, is that there are grassroots groups like in Topanga Canyon, as one you mentioned to me, where there are people who they were organized by the community, and they're 501c3s, and they have this kind of bottom up sort of existence, and they may need to do that, but of course, CCSD can't kind of make that happen. That's the problem. We've talked about that with the Vets Hall, and they're talking about it with recreation. It just doesn't happen from the top down. But there's got to be some advocates out there for fire safety who are, you know, yelling and screaming and talking to people, you know, not literally, but they're really out there beating the drum about it in the community and getting people, you know, to come to meetings and advocate for things.
So
agitate for
the
things.
liaisons are a big step to that.
The liaisons can be that way, yeah. Though it's still top down, and I don't know, that's the issue. I mean, it's.
The only thing I can think of
Yeah.
is the CCSD actually spending money on a PR person, you know, to do these types of things. Tie it.
In a perfect world, that would be.
I mean, granted, there's a money issue there,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah, I've got memories of that.
Because we're not,
And,
this is not our,
that was
this is not our
That was me at
specialty,
one point, yeah.
but it's a need that I think is lacking.
And to that point, you know, all the areas that I visited outside of this community have, not all of them, but most of them, especially in Mill Valley, it's impressive how many resources they have to these campaigns and these things to, and resources means money too. And so that's where we are kind of, struggling a little bit, and we have a large, kind of task in front of us to be able to bridge that gap. But that's really the difference is when you have that many, I mean, in Mill Valley, they had the community liaisons, they call them the block captains up there, but they literally have an entire organization running that. That's all they do. They just focus on that. And so where we kind of are, all of us are kind of jack of all trades, you know, we're wearing different hats at different times, and it does kind of create more roadblocks or difficulties. But having said that, again, I'll reiterate what I said earlier, which I think we're doing a way better job than we ever had. But we are up against.
Yeah, like,
that.
you know, you're in I've said before, you have a unique public position as a fire captain. It's like a golden. And I think you wear that very, very well. And it's part of your job, but it's not your most essential part of your job. Your essential part is keeping the community safe. It's not being a PR guy.
Yeah.
I can put Dave on the spot here with a question about the fire safe focus group. Is it possible that the fire safe focus group could kind of fill that slot, because they're the one group that kind of represents, has representation from all over Cambria on the fire issue. I mean, it's wildfire, but mainly wildfire, but they're not standalone 501c3 because they're part of Fire Safe Council. But I know there are groups like Fire Safe Focus Group that are themselves kind of independent, or not, they're not obviously, doing things that the Fire Safe Council doesn't want them to do, but they're independent illegally. They have a 501c3. I think there's one up above Tunatascadero and El Toro Canyon, and they're elsewhere too in the state. Is that a possibility that they could actually become a grassroots group with the ability to raise money, get grants, carry out activities that need funding independently?
Yes and no, okay? The Fire Safe Council basically is the one that is responsible for the formation and the current leadership of the Fire Safe Focus Group. If the Fire Safe Focus Group wanted to do something different, okay, it could. However, the Fire Safe Council gives us mass and gives us the ability to go after grants, okay, and we've never asked for anything from the Fire Safe Council that they haven't given us, okay? There's currently grants available that, Dan Turner is working on a list, and he's got the list from us as far as what we would like, to get accomplished. There's an awful lot going on in Cambria already, in and around Cambria.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some other areas that I've given him and the other people within the focus group have given him to continue that, okay? If we as a small group would try to do that, number one, who would write the grants, right? We'd have to find somebody in our group and that kind of thing. Well, I don't think that's the best way to go. We have a core group, like most organizations, of about 30 people that come to our meetings, are active, doing things. My email list that I send out to is like 120 people, okay? 130 people. So we've got 100 people that don't participate very much, and all they do is they get the email. Okay, and they sometimes respond and say, what's going on with this or that kind of thing. But an awful lot of them aren't doing what we really want them to do, which is be, like you said, the people out there talking to their neighbors and being volunteering to be the liaison in their area and that kind of. I can certainly, send out an email asking for more help with that. I think that may be a start to doing that. Okay, here's the things we really need you people who are interested in this to do. Okay, you need to sign up with Cheaper.
Right, I was gonna ask about how much crossover there is between the people who show up, the regulars at the Fire Safe Focus Group and the liaison list. I don't know how many people are doing both. Interesting to see if.
There's a number of them,
Yeah.
but
And that's the
it's not
reality.
every one of them, because there's some people that are active in our group that that's not
Okay, so that's not like a start. I mean, it's
for
like.
one reason or another.
Right.
Some of them don't aren't ready to go door to door and knock on people's doors, which I think is unfortunately in Cambria, I think that's where you have to go in order to get the word out to a lot of these people.
That's right.
I talk to some of our neighbors every now and then, and they're completely, what?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the reality.
Yeah.
A lot of the lists that we have, a lot of those things, the same people are kind of signing up for those lists. So we can hit that list more, but we're trying to reach the demographic that isn't getting those lists. And, how do we kind of, okay, we've done a great job when those people do sign up, or the people that are coming to the board meetings, or to these, that are listening. How do we get those people that aren't listening, that honestly don't care, to be honest? There's a large group of people that just not because they don't, they're bad people, it's just they don't want to worry about it. They, there's a ton of people that are on vacation or they're retired and they just don't want to think about this stuff. So how do we reach them in a, you know, kind of a gentle way that we're not just forcing things down their throat.
I think just the sound conclusion is anybody any organization, like fire safety focus, the obvious one, but service clubs, Lions, Rotary, I guess, I'm sure we're talking to them. But to tell them maybe they can become part of the team in a way and spread, recruit for the liaisons and stuff like that, just to get that word out that everybody should be kind of, supporting and promoting the effort, not just knowing about it. And that might be the only thing at this point we can do. But there's a problem. I mean, there's a problem with the lack of a network of communication that's really community wide. I mean, and we just have to find our targets.
I would even say more than community wide. This is and there's a lot of, we have Cambria specific problems, but I don't feel like this is one of them. This is across the nation even. The people are struggling trying to get this information out to everybody in our county for sure. I mean, I know tons of people in the county that, I mean, just yesterday I was talking to someone who had no idea that Genesis Protect isn't around anymore.
Right.
And that wasn't in this community. So it's a widespread thing and we just have to kind of, I guess, use all of our available resources and figure it out.
And if you're going to raise the consciousness of our vast apathetic public, it's going to be face-to-face, one-on-one, eyeball to eyeball, and neighbors saying, this is a problem. Did you know this was a problem? No, I didn't know this was a problem. And it's going to take more than one of those visits to get people to believe that they have to take some action.
Yeah, and it came back to Tony's original point. This is kind of how campaigning's done in Cambria. I mean, I went door to door to hundreds and hundreds of houses. And other innocent during COVID, other people do that too. I mean, it is kind of a door to door town. I mean, you just not,
Well, that's why I put a lot of faith in the community
Yeah.
liaisons to move this program.
Yeah. Okay.
It's really
Yeah.
the best idea that I think we have to get the word out there.
Yeah, so we'll move on now. I think this is a fruitful little discussion here about what we need to do and how to overcome the difficulties. I'll move on to public comment. Now, because this is a special meeting. The only subject that people can comment on are the agenda items, which is for the benefit assessment measure and the Cal Poly students reports. As a general rule, also wanted to comment, just advise people about written communications. There was a lengthy document that was sent in, and it's with the agenda online from the firefighters union about an issue that's not really on the agenda. It's about staffing. And I just want to make clear what my policy is on using written submissions. Some chairs, I guess, will read them, or they can be read up to, if somebody is here as a member of the public and has a written comment, they can read it, but there's a 3-minute limit on, oral comments. And since I've not done this in the past, I wouldn't make it a practice. I won't make it a practice to read aloud in the meeting submissions that have been given to us online. So that document is available on, to the public on our website with this agenda. And in the future, that's what, you should also know that's the policy. It won't be read aloud, and it will be available for people to see. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. I'm not trying to not read something. And also, this being a special meeting, it wasn't really on the agenda topic. So bear that in mind. Next meeting will be a regular meeting. You can comment on anything that's relevant, maybe. I will ask though, at this point, before asking for comment, I wanted to get the names of, make sure I got all the people here recorded. I guess we go through the staff, the firefighting staff first. Kayla Graves. Craig Brooks, Christian Evers, Craig McGill, and then Mr. Putney, and,
Cheryl Cashman, I'm in CMB 20.
okay, yeah. Sorry.
All right.
Okay,
2 weeks and I know.
Would you add those to,
yeah,
to
but,
the record
yeah.
once I submit it to you?
okay,
Thanks.
yeah, because they stated their names for the recording shows. And online, we have Crosby and Laura Swartz and an iPad by the name, owned by someone named Robin, is all we have. So anyway, I'll move on. Is there any public comment from anyone here in the audience, in the hall? Anyone online wish to comment? Probably more. Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. The one item on the consent agenda is the May 15th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. Any corrections or questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we, approve the minutes as stated.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Pearson, seconded by Mr. Safford. That the minutes be approved as presented. Take a roll call on Mr. Pearson.
Aye.
Mr. Safford.
Aye.
Mr. Heinrichs.
Aye.
Mr. DeLuca.
I wasn't here.
Oh, so you can
I can
abstain.
abstain on that.
Abstain, yes. And Mr. Chapman.
All right,
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Luke was not here, so that's why he's abstaining. Okay,
Makes sense.
okay, moving on then to the regular business. We will start with, as we specified at the beginning of the meeting, 4B, which is the discussion of the Cal Poly student reports on updating the community wildfire protection plan for Cambria. Consideration of appointing an ad hoc committee to review the reports and make recommendations for an updated CWPP. Staff doesn't have any presentation here, right? Would you know? Okay, so Dave, I'll start with Mr. Pearson, and I guess we'll help Mr. Putney come in also, but maybe just start with you.
Yeah, so, the Cal Poly, the CWPP is the Community Wildfire Protection Plan
Mhm.
or preparation. And, it's supposed to be updated every 3 years. And, the latest one that we have has no date on it,
Mhm.
okay? So we really don't know when it was updated last.
Mhm.
So we need to fix that the next time, the next iteration, which we need to do, soon. So the Cal Poly students, as part of their class, as part of their senior, final paper, okay? Took a look at our CWPP that we had, and they presented a new plan, okay? They had 4 different groups, and they each came up with a new plan. Their assessment of the problem, okay, was probably much better than their recommendations and stuff, okay? But they all had good ideas and different ideas, and that can form the basis for our update. Okay, we can take our existing plan, look at those 4 plans that they authored, okay, and revise our plan and have that ready. The key to having this done is it's one of the requirements for the application for the fire, the fire. Or what should I say?
The other one,
Yeah, but also,
the other one, yeah, that we're talking about, the
It was the
Yeah.
fire, it was
fire safe,
protection.
Yeah.
protection, yeah.
Fire protection.
right, application
Yeah,
period, which
yeah.
is now open,
Yeah.
will be open until October 1st. We are not currently listed as a community on that list, but we should be. For a couple of reasons. One, it helps us get grants. And 2, it helps people with insurance. I've already had people call me up and say, hey, my insurance company sent me this list. They want me to check two boxes. One is whether you are a Firewise community or not. I said, yes, we are. And I said, here's where the, document is for that. And the other one is this FPPC, okay, list, and we are not currently on it, okay? And that's another place that insurance companies are offering discounts of 5% if your community is on that list. So we have to make application by October 1st, and then they will review it and we will end up on the list coming next July 1st. Okay, it takes them 9 months to review it.
And when you say we, is it the Fire Safe Council or CCSD? Okay,
CCSD is.
Yeah.
Is the applicant. Okay, so what I think the chief, former Chief Putney would like to do is he would like to join in on that. Okay, ad hoc committee and help with that writing and revision of that so that we can move that forward. So I would recommend that we appoint a ad hoc committee and ask for Mr. Putney to be on that committee and anyone else that wants to help with our vision on that.
Do we have a sense of the scope of work between the old and the new?
I don't think it's gonna be difficult, okay? I think it's going to be, I hate to say 20 to 30 hours worth of work maybe to figure out what the revisions need to be and to cut and paste and put that in, I would say. Okay, so it's not gonna be an easy process necessarily, but CCSD would appreciate the help that we could give them in getting it done.
Mr. Putney, do you have anything to add to that?
Not really. Dave is close to what I was asking for, but, for us to be a Firewise USA community, not only do we have to have the community wildfire protection plan submitted, which ours is good until next year, at least for Firewise USA. But we also need a community action plan. And the state of California, CAL FIRE, and the federal fire service agencies have a site-specific plan for California that communities have to fill out priorities, and I have to have those to me by at least probably by the end of September, so I can put them in the format on the Firewise USA site and submit them. So I can't submit any data or start our recertification process until we come up with a newly updated 3-year, basically targeted action plan for the activities we're gonna do in Cambria. I didn't bring enough copies for everybody, but I brought and I'll leave these with you, Tom and Dave, and I can email these to you. This is the Firewise renewal application that talks about the California 3-year specific, action plan that you're gonna do in your community targeted for wildfire. I have the CAL FIRE California document that's got all the categories on what actions you're gonna take, like the community liaisons would fit in here, the fire safe chipping, a lot of that. So a lot of this is fill in the blanks. And then I have the one that I did for our community last time because Chief Hollingsworth was retiring. The new chief that was hired was here, but didn't want to do anything with it. He said, I'm not gonna touch it. So I talked to Dave and we did it and submitted it. So that was in 2022. So that expires for the 24 year, but now we start 25, 26, and 27. So that's why it needs to be submitted. So I don't know if you guys have any questions. It's pretty self-explanatory on here what they are. If you just write them in, I have to go actually to the Firewise site and type them into the plan. So I don't care if it's handwritten, as long as I can read it. I just need it by September.
Yeah, so, and the action plan should be part of the CWPP.
I was gonna ask about, I was getting a little confused by the different plan. We're talking primarily about the CWPP, the wildfire protection plan. So an action plan is incorporated into it.
It's part of one of the plans that's required for us to renew as a Firewise community.
Now, CWPP, the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, that's not updated every 3 years, is it? That's a more
That's right.
long-standing plan.
That's
So we're
typically,
updating one this was done, what, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
yeah, it's a 5-year, plan.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to get staff's input on this. Yeah.
From an ad hoc perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, take it away, I guess.
From an ad hoc perspective, the ad hoc is exempt from the Brown Act. That's where they can meet, doesn't have to be a standing committee if it's members of the committee.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to add in a community member.
I think ad hocs, the way ad hocs have always worked in the committee level, at least, actually works that way at the board level. You can have, they're not members of the ad hoc.
I just want to make that.
Yeah, they're consulted, the ad hoc will meet with, they consult with other people.
Consult, yeah.
Like we've had ad hocs that have, large numbers of people from the community were
Yeah.
meeting with us, but the ad hoc, the decision making, the recommendation will come from the two people on the committee.
Yeah, there was just there was wording of adding him to the ad hoc, so I just want to be clear, it would be a consultant.
Yeah. I just, I have not seen the reports yet, so I don't know if there are issues of practicality and budget in these proposals. I mean,
In terms of,
in terms of the, what we're looking at from the, Cal Poly student reports.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you guys posted those out there yet, or?
we have not posted them on the website, I do have them.
Okay. Yeah, so they're electronically available on the Fire Safe Council
Mhm.
website. They're lengthy documents, okay, but they're some repetitive things. And our existing CWPP is on the CSD list.
Yeah.
So it's all available for you to look at and everything. And distilling what they reported on their 4 reports down into revising, I think is going to be, a really simple task. I don't think it's gonna be, hard. And the hard part is gonna be, cutting and pasting and just updating the existing plan. So that's where you wanna start at, is an existing plan, and what new ideas could they have or new stuff that they had that you want to incorporate.
So if you want to bring this back to the committee for recommendation to the board, basically a draft
Right.
that could be recommended to the board. Mr. Putney, you were gonna say something.
I was just gonna say that the community wildfire protection plan, probably 90% of the work's already been done by the Cal Fire Ranger unit. They have a wildfire protection plan for the whole county.
Mhm.
And then because Cal Fire is the contract fire department for San Luis Obispo County, San Luis Obispo County Fire Department has a wildland segment in their fire protection emergency services plan. If you take those, merge them together, it doesn't necessarily have to cost the CCSD any money. It's how you plan moving forward to protect the community, what you're doing now and what the goal is in the future.
Okay. Bring us back to the board for questions, board members. And if you haven't had your questions yet answered, do you have any? Any discussion?
No, I think the only thing that Mr. Pearson alluded to is that some of the recommendations from the students are a little out of reach financially. There's some very lofty
Yeah.
remedies to some of our.
Yeah, well, they did that on purpose. And
Yeah.
they stayed in there that, these are things that,
Ideal situation.
yeah, ideal, and, if you had the money, you would do this.
Right.
They even state that numerous times in at least one of the reports, that unfortunately, the CCSD doesn't have the money to do these things, okay?
So it sounds to me like the Cal Poly students' work is gonna be part of the input to the updating of the CWPP. And obviously parts of it that are practical can be included. But the revision of the updating, I should say, of the CWPP is not just drawing upon the Cal Poly work, it's drawing upon all sorts of other work that's been done, Mr. Putney mentioned. Yeah, and so, I would think in terms of the work product, is the draft of a revised CWPP. And in terms of time frame, sounds like this should be done pretty soon. We meet next on August 21st. Is that look
That's possible.
achievable? The next meeting after that is I think September, you have that in front of you, Tuesday of September, Tuesday after the second, third day in September, fairly early. I think,
September 18th.
September 18th, well, it's not that early. The September 18th, work with the deadlines for the final draft.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, what deadlines do we have here? We have to meet.
Well, that October 1st deadline is the critical one. And
Yeah.
I think the CWPP is gotta be, done,
Adopted, right?
adopted.
Yeah.
As part of that.
Ron, did you have a question?
No, I'm just.
Well, it's over the next month and a half. It sounds like it'd be the most practical thing to try to get it done by August 21st. I mean, just the draft by August 21st. So then
And who adopts it? CCSD adopts it?
State board adopted. Yeah.
And is it the board, or can you do so unilateral?
I don't know, the board, I think. Wouldn't it be, I don't know, staff?
I don't know if the previous one was adopted by the board.
Yeah.
I don't think
I don't know if the
so.
board would have any real strong opinions about it.
It's more of an operational document.
Yeah.
On how,
It wasn't adopted by the board in years past, yeah.
I think it's an operational document on how the fire chief and his crews would, mitigate these issues, so.
So that saves us some time.
Yeah, so I think maybe we can name it for the September date. 18th, and then staff will have it, have the draft, and you can do, work with it as much as you want, especially working with, we'll be, obviously consulting with staff on the way. So with that in mind, talking about a September 18th date for
That's
the
fine.
product. I would invite volunteers, I think, for the two-member ad hoc committee in this case. Gordon?
Volunteer.
Okay, anybody else? David, you you too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
I don't care.
unless,
That's fine.
okay,
Yeah, that's fine. I can still, I need an advisor, because I'm not really.
yeah, as long as you, because you're working with Mr. Putney too, so, Bob Putney. I guess, any discussion from the board beyond that? So I would, entertain a motion for appointment and assignment of a task to the ad hoc committee. Would be the best thing to do, yeah.
So move.
Okay, so we, smooth, and a second?
Second.
A second by Tony. So it's moved to second that we appoint Mr. Ron Luca and Gordon Heinrichs as the ad hoc committee to working with former Chief Putney and other relevant staff to produce a draft for an updated community wildfire protection plan for Cambria to be presented back at this committee on its meeting in September, which is September 18th. Could I have a roll call? Pearson.
Aye.
Stafford. Heinrichs.
Aye.
5 ayes, passes 5 ayes. Good luck, it'll be a neat adventure. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 4B. Oh, I didn't ask for public comment. Was there any? I don't believe so, no. Moving on to 4A. Discussion and consideration of appointing an ad hoc committee for a preliminary study to assess the feasibility of a benefit assessment measure on the June or November ballot in 2026. I'll turn this over to staff for initial report, what you wanted to present this, and then we go on to discussion. If you have anything to say. You want to,
We're talking about the assessment.
The assessment now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that document that the union provided pretty much explains a lot of the issues that we're up against. And it mainly starts with, I think I've said it before, but we're kind of, I don't want to sound too bad, but I feel like we're living a little bit beyond our means right now, as far as the services that we're providing and what we're actually paying for. And so we are continually as the future comes we're going to be even farther behind. And that's where I think this is looking to not only improve, but also sustain what we have. There's really good information in that document that was provided about, why we have such a high turnover at our department. And then the future challenges that we're facing as far as not only retention in employees, but that's one of the most important things for me is the retention of our employees, but also looking to the future as far as sustainability in our infrastructure, fire engine replacement, station improvements, replacement, that kind of stuff. But to start with right now, we are up against an extreme financial challenge just to maintain what we have. Not only adding, if we're looking at talking about myself and what I was just giving to the fire department as far, or the fire personnel as far as their kudos for helping me, getting myself as like potentially a fire marshal position or something along those lines to be able to actually enforce or evaluate even a lot of these issues that we're having from our new ordinance, and actually trying to get those things done. It's an extreme task to ask for our small department to be able to do. And so we're doing it to the best of our ability, but in order to improve that, I don't see any other way, to be honest, with other than an assessment to be able to improve. Again, I'll restate that I feel like our initial what the services that are being provided right now by our, again, outstanding fire department is unprecedented. We don't the things that they're doing. I'll use this analogy. We're getting essentially the community is getting like a Michelin star restaurant type food for McDonald's prices, is the way I see it. And it's been, to me, this is, I don't see any other way to finally be able to sustain, our employees and finally be able to keep the retention. We have a lot of firefighters that leave simply, because they can go anywhere else in the county and make more money. And that's a shame, because we've created an amazing environment here. I think we have a great department, but the fact is they have to figure out how to live. They have to have a job that's going to pay them industry standards, and we're not looking for the highest paying in the county. Obviously, we're looking for, Paso City and San Luis City are always battling for the highest. We're not talking about, trying to get them to be the highest paid. We just want them, I've said this a million times to our crews, but I want them to think twice about leaving. Right now, there's no thinking twice, I'll use myself as an example. There was prior to me becoming chief, I was applying for a firefighter position over in Paso. And as a fire captain, I was going to pass roles as a firefighter. Again, we can't use them directly, but I was going to take a pay increase, just going back down to a firefighter from a fire captain. It's not good. It's not good for retention, and retention isn't just about these guys making more money and then just smiling, running to the bank. It's about the community. If you have an employee that is here, like one of our fire captains, Michael Castellanos, he's lived here, he was born here, this is his home, and he's not planning to go anywhere. Those are the type of people that we want to retain. Those are the type of people that we want to, because consistency creates better service. They know the area. They actually have buy-in in our community. And those are the type of people that we're trying to not only, to get to our department, but also retain. And retention is a very, very large issue. And again, with this assessment, we've talked at length about this, and I do ever a sustainable way to create those.
Ms. Mappa.
So from the GM perspective and the fire chief is looking at, the staffing piece of it, and we're looking at it from a board and a GM perspective on how we sustain it financially with our limited budget, And there's more that goes into it than just our staffing. We're, like the chief said, we're looking at equipment. We're looking at, the fire hazard fuel reduction program. We're looking at defensible space. We're looking back at when, and you probably correct.
She just,
At one point, we did have a fire marshal in the district, and then that position was eliminated because some funds moved from the general fund over to facilities and resources to support the ranch, so.
And the secretary position.
And administrative assistant position, so we have to look at it from several different pieces within the fire department. To include, you know, evacuation routes, which I know, Chair McRae, you know, is very serious about, and so what I think we need to do, or a potential option would be. An ad hoc, and I know we got a few ad hocs rolling around, so maybe at some point there's
some of them are maybe on hiatus.
Right. So, you know, not to put too many ad hocs together, but if we put a couple on pause. Maybe an ad hoc to look at, what we want to capture within that benefits assessment. And then, once we have that, you know, the potential of going to the board for a potential budget adjustment to hire for an engineering study that will do this, that will do it for us and go out and analyze that to include salaries and benefits for the firefighters. Maybe a fire marshal position, evacuation routes, equipment, fire engines, you know, and then there's always the other side of the discussion with the community and perhaps the board is. Okay, well, now you have to look at alternatives to the benefits assessment, you know, and Chief and I have talked about it, we've been candid about it. I feel good about where that would go, and what I mean is looking at CAL FIRE and asking them for an RFP. And having them do an analysis on what it would take to provide comparable services here in Cambria. And there's various different levels to what CAL FIRE can provide. A 2-person engine, 3-person engine, 3-person engine with paramedics. Right now, we do have a 3-person engine with paramedics. CAL FIRE is moving to a more traditional staffing model on a 56-hour work week. Currently, they're a 72-hour work week, or did they move to 60?
It's third 66, that's. Is that,
They lowered their hours per, our crews work, 48.96, so an average of 56 hours a week. CAL FIRE went from 72 hours a week on a certain salary down to 66, and they're looking to move to 56. That means, since I left CAL FIRE in 2017, they've probably seen a 30% raise, 40% raise over the last, you know, just short of a decade. They're not in my opinion, they're not the cheapest option anymore. A lot of counties would go and contract with CAL FIRE because they were the cheaper option, and that is not the case anymore. So I think maybe the board would look and ask us at some point to look for an RFP to CAL FIRE to analyze the different service levels on what that would cost the district to contract that with CAL FIRE, or what I believe to be the most economic model right now is the current fire department we have. But like the chief said, it's becoming unsustainable because of all the different tugs outside of the fire department's budget. You know, facilities and resources really tugs at our general fund. And so it's difficult to support all the operational needs, equipment needs, staffing and salaries. I mean, I have negotiations today with the union because they're on a 1-year deal. And so we're gonna come in and they're trying to get somewhere close to parity for what it costs to live here in San Luis County. And like the chief said, you know, obviously San Luis Obispo and Paso Robles type wages are difficult for a small special district. With all that said, I think perhaps an ad hoc to start looking at our priorities that we're looking at to capture within that benefits assessment, package that together, have a decent report to present to the board, and then perhaps have the board grant moving forward with this engineering study, which is the first piece before we think about putting it on the ballot.
Any questions from
Couple
this?
questions.
committee?
As I understand it, going back to this document in 2003, that there's a current assessment.
There's one already, yeah,
Has there been increases since 2003?
COLA increases, so each year there's a COLA adjustment. I
Right.
think this last one was 2.7 or 3%, I can't remember.
yeah, exactly.
But each year there's a bump in terms of.
And
COLA.
the new proposal is
an additional, a brand new assessment. In addition to this one would still be there. The current one would still be there. It'd be an additional assessment.
but why not merge the?
So.
Well, I was,
a
the question I
secondary
had too
assessment.
was,
instead of
can this
increased.
assessment, the current assessment be increased by more than, you know, a certain amount, more than inflation through board action, or does it require the assessment vote
I believe it required another vote.
Yeah.
I would have to connect with Mr. Carmel to
Yeah.
really, this would be my first, assessment that I would have been a part of.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a whole separate vote.
Mhm.
Uh,
There's kind of two parallel things going on here that we have to deal with. One is the assessment process itself, and if it makes sense to do that, both politically and legally, for what we're talking about. And the other one is because the needs, defining what the priorities are and how much money is actually needed to satisfy those priorities. They're kind of right now, they're in a little two different boxes, and I think the ad hoc committee, I don't know which one they, I would want the ad hoc committee to work on first, but it seems that I think staff has to work out the priorities. I think it has to come from staff rather than from us, our committee. I do think the committee would be useful in assessing the feasibility of a benefit assessment, especially given the timetable we have with the 2 elections next year. And also to maybe get some input from, or just knowledge about where it's been done elsewhere in recent years and whether it's been successful for fire departments. Because I've heard about it. Usually assessments are classically for public improvements that benefit properties and then can be charged to the properties, like paving streets, street lighting, all those things. And around in Cambria, like burying utility utility lines and stuff. That's very straightforward, very clear cut. But what we did in 2003, and too bad Mr. Putney left because he was fire chief then. He could tell us a little bit about the background on that. But we had an assessment for ongoing fire services. It was pretty general. And I don't know how much that's done now and whether people have success at it. And how you do it, how you define the assessment by property, by parcel, because it isn't just a clear-cut parcel tax. It's like there's the size of the parcel makes a difference, the size of the buildings make a difference. There's much more precision about whether it benefits, how much it benefits particular properties. So I think the ad hoc, to me, if they're interested, could look into, how feasible is it? Because the alternative, of course, is a parcel tax, which is difficult politically, it's 2/3 vote. It's not impossible if people really want it, but that's very straightforward. It's a certain amount of money, per parcel, per developed parcel, whatever, every year we have an escalator for inflation, but this is a more complicated process. It doesn't take a 2/3 vote, but the inputs to that process have to be more precise about this benefit to properties. So I don't know if there's, and I was talking to Mr. Duke about this and if anybody else wants to be on the committee, David too. But I mean, I think to me, that sounds like what you want to maybe establish that first is what it takes to do it, how long it takes, and have staff work on the priorities and just come up with a dollar amount, nothing else that might be needed. And
Is there a current budget?
well, the current budget,
2003 for $1 million.
well, the current fire budget, yeah. Well, that-
Obviously, you have to have something to be shooting for. Is that not correct? And have a current budget?
Yeah.
Understand that Matthew thinks there should be budget that we should meet. Or get an appraised amount, but you need an increase for, you need to know where you are today, I would think.
Well, we need to, because David, yeah.
First of all, as the full board requested us to do this, is this their primary methodology for increasing the general fund?
I think the recommendation comes from staff. Or the inquiry comes from staff.
question, I'm sorry.
The strategic plan has, something in it about increasing general fund.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as ad hoc or whatever, come up with, this is the primary way to do that.
Well, I don't know if there's an ad hoc set at the strategic planning level. It's more, this is what they told staff.
Yeah, I think staff is taking that strategic objective. And this is, I think staff's judgment that this should be tried first or whatever. This is plan A, right?
This would be
You put it
plan A.
that way,
I mean, because I think, as you know, I think
I mean, you did a presentation on, you know, basically how to bolster the general fund or our funding mechanism in general. And one of them was talking about corporation benefits assessment, I forget what the other option was.
Those are the two main ones.
And then it came down to looking at the ranch maintenance, right? We set up that ad hoc with at the time President Gray and Vice President Thomas, and then we try to work through how can we be more efficient with our general fund as it applied to the monies that were going towards the ranch. And we kind of hit a little bit of a brick wall with that outside of basically saying, okay, we're gonna balance the budget from the facilities and resources side. Use more staff more efficiently, less contracting, we can balance that budget. But even with that budget being balanced, now we're looking at the fire department budget and saying, okay, well, we can't.
Right, I understand the need. Okay, so as a benefit assessment for F&R then considered. Or,
We've
You know,
we've looked at it from a ranch perspective. And I think it's gonna be more, so our personal belief is it's gonna be more difficult to pass an assessment for the ranch, which is basically essentially tied to F&R, because if you could really fund the ranch appropriately, then we can pull in more of our facilities and resources staff to deal with the district and
Right.
perhaps spend less money in F&R and more to the fire department. But I don't think, with the ranch specifically, and Chairman Gray has better insight into it, is that it would be a different type of assessment that isn't necessarily applied equally to all
Yeah.
parcels in the district in terms of the benefit you get from the ranch. And so we believe that that would be a tougher assessment to pass.
Right.
Whereas this is a more holistic approach that all, you know, community members would benefit from in terms of fire protection, public safety. So, well, our belief is that the higher probability of being able to properly fund our fire department would be through a benefits assessment for fire.
okay,
No question, what is the budget? I asked the question, what is the current budget? We've gone around nothing here.
Well,
It's
I think,
posted on the website.
I think the current
Well,
budget,
I'd like to know what it is, I don't know,
I think we're talking about
brought it up, but.
the current budget
Goals.
is, the current budget is adopted,
Adopted and.
but we're talking about next year, we're talking about the 2026-27 budget, really, or even later, 27-28, depending on when this goes to the ballot. These are expenses that are, not budgeted at this point, but are seen as inevitable in the future. Correct. So we have to make a budget, we're thinking of the budget basically, I think 2 years from now, really. And so none of this is in the budget now, but the theme here is that what we have in the budget for fire, you know, long-term is not adequate.
Yeah,
Basically, we have to deal with that somehow.
Yeah, and if you balance it with the CIP list with 2 engines that needs to be replaced.
Still not telling me how much it
Tender,
is, that's all
You
I'm
take
asking.
a look at, you know, potential station improvement.
What don't we have,
PPE.
we're gonna have, you're just making stuff up right now, or what?
No, the budget,
This is unreal,
It's
come
all,
on,
it's all publicly posted.
the
that's
budget,
fine, well, show me where it is then.
well, it's in the budget.
Are you talking about the fire, just the fire, the current fire
I'm
department?
not worried about his budget, he takes care of that,
The fire department budget,
right,
okay, so
that's
I don't know
all,
if we have a number for it.
there must be a number we're discussing. That's
It's a number, it's
An assessment,
3 million something.
so it's
Well,
1
that's
million in
the
two
It's on the
thousand three,
budget, yeah, I mean, but see, this,
that's all.
I think we're talking about.
Gee.
Okay, so we can get that number in a little bit. Tony, you had a comment.
Well, there's no question this, from what Michael and Matthew have said, we need to find increased funds categorically, to protect this community. There's great value in retention of our firefighters. It's subjective, but to know who your firefighters are is hugely, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm personally grateful. I don't speak of Chief Ricky as the fire captain, as our fire captain, and there's value in knowing our crew. That's just, again, that's subjective, but the material needs are essential. To me, this, what are the roadblocks in getting this done? I mean, it's very, very simple. How do we get from here to there? What's to me, it's, from what it was outlined in the kind of draft proposal for my home would be something like $120 a year. That's not material. I would advocate something, twice that.
That's-
times that. That takes care of the
This
problem.
is where the
So.
the judgment comes in about the politics of it.
Well,
How much do
exactly.
you ask
Well,
for?
exactly,
But
hold on, I'm
yeah.
not done yet, so, but that's my own personal feeling, I also think. The good news is you do have a long runway for a campaign about this, because if you spring it on the community, you know what the reaction will be. You do have to, again, make the need part of the campaign. And there should be some strategizing about that, but just, there's no question, we gotta get there. It's essential, otherwise we're throwing our lives away and our property away.
But I think from a staff perspective, we would analyze, all the different needs within the fire department, staffing, equipment. We look about fire marshal, we tie in our defensible space, fire hazard fuel reduction program.
And then back that into an assessment structure that gets you there, taking into consideration political challenges to get there, and there will be political challenges.
And I think that work from the staff side would feed into the discussion at the board level, because you gotta have that engineer's feasibility study to basically say, okay, well, what does this look like with all your needs? So we take in the capital improvement project needs, we take a look at the staffing models, potential fire marshal, and that gets packaged in this feasibility study that really would inform us on.
And can't you just jumpstart to get there right now? Why have an ad hoc committee? Just get to the engineering assessment.
Wow.
And I think that's what
just over $3 million.
So, looks like
Okay.
that's substantially over 2003.
Yeah,
Yes.
so, first, I'm, glad to serve on the ad hoc. I think being part of the discussion of staff, just being fly on the wall, if that's all you want, of coming up with those numbers is important for, the ad hoc, because we have to understand exactly the enormity of what's going on, okay? Because then when we go, and I think the ad hoc, first thing that they need to do is the research that Tom was talking about in finding out what other communities, service districts have done these recently, and what engineering firms in California do these. Then talking to those people, finding out, okay, how did you go about it? Did it pass? Didn't it pass? What did you learn from that? The ad hoc committee can get that kind of information back so that once we come up with the numbers, right, we can say, we recommend this engineering firm and, these are the challenges that are going to be presented by going after this, okay? I think that's what the job of the ad hoc committee would be. And then helping figure out how to get that done. And it's gotta be done pretty quickly, because by March, the thing's gotta be done. The engineer's gotta be hired
Yeah.
and done basically by March in order to get it on the November ballot. And so, that means that, things have gotta move rapidly here if you're going to get it on the ballot for November. I think getting it on the one in June.
I think, June is not practical.
I
It'd be frustrating to try.
can't imagine us getting this done by January. An engineering firm doesn't work that fast, unfortunately. So it's a complicated process. If you looked at what they did in 2003, coming up with this size house gets a different assessment than this size house, and a vacant lot gets a different amount. The engineer has to go through all of that and try to figure that out, okay? And firms that have done it before will find that fairly easy to do, but it's gotta all be done. And then presented in the manner that everybody understands.
Art.
I have a basic question, and that is, what is the value of an ad hoc committee working on this particular problem. Because all of the data have to come from staff, have to come from your budget. And the feasibility of it is basically a percentage increase to the cost for fire services, if I understand it correctly. Is that the way it would work out? I mean, you calculate the current cost, they calculate the additional cost, that's a percentage increase to the cost of fire services.
Yeah.
Is that the way you would, is that the way you would?
From a 10,000 foot view, yes, I mean, there's gonna be a lot that goes into it in terms of,
Way you would compute it, right?
yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be, a fine science in terms of this is the exact percentage we're gonna need. We would have to look again at the CIP list, prioritize that, try to figure out what we're gonna try to capture in the benefits assessment. From a staff level, I like the idea of working with Mr. Pearson to say, okay, this is what we're looking at long range. Here are our capital improvement replacement needs over the next 10 years, which will inform, the engineer's study and inform the ad hoc. I think it's a value because everything that we do runs through committees. And so if we bring forward, if staff just generated something in agenda review and said, yep, we want to put the engineer's assessment on the agenda for approval, they're going to want to know, well, how's it run through the fire protection committee? And so I think that's why we're here, is to get input from the ad hoc to understand where staff is coming from.
I guess I'm just wondering what value we would add. What value is added by having a volunteer ad hoc group work on that versus, a direct report from staff to the board that makes a recommendation to put the benefit assessment increase to a vote.
Well, this goes in phases, so.
We'll vote it sometime in the future.
You guys are an advisory committee. You will advise the board to hear this.
All right. Well,
So I'm
yeah,
saying,
we're not.
what I'm
not
saying,
really
I think,
So,
yeah, I
but
think-
if you need us to go through it, David has outlined the value of
Yeah.
going through it. I think that makes sense. If those are the steps that help you get this past the
Right.
board, then let's by all means
So
do it quickly.
I think Art's question is fair, though. Whether this committee needs an ad hoc subcommittee on this, I'm beginning to think not, because we're meeting, right now, we're working with staff. We work closely with the staff, I think, without having an ad hoc committee sort of as a middleman between the committee and the staff. I
So
think,
can this be just a recommendation right now from the,
but we recommend that you
From staff.
to move forward with it, to advise the
investigate the
board?
feasibility of yeah.
We can take the ball and run with
Study the
it, come back and
feasibility.
bring a report to
Right.
you.
Report back to
I'm
us.
just trying to be inclusive of.
Yeah, this is pretty important. So I would like,
There was a full committee basically would be acting on, rather than going through an ad hoc, because that makes it overly complicated, I think. I think our question.
With due respect to staff, and I know their time is very valuable. We were on an ad hoc committee, and it was a tremendous effort to get time, staff time, to get your time, because you guys are so busy. And I can see it would be having an ad hoc committee involvement is just going to add additional work.
Right.
And I was very frustrated in the process. So I don't see, I really don't see the value that we could add to that.
but that said, if, to take David's point, if you want us to research what other special districts have done and what their process was, who their contacts were, I'm happy to do so. But again, just speed this along.
I mean, I think that's a benefit to us while we work on the pieces of it. I think there's a benefit to David and even in you, Tony, taking a look at those other districts that have done it. I mean, I've pulled up SCI Consulting Group, NBS, which is doing a feasibility study for the county right now. I mean, you could reach out to them and start digging in to that piece that would alleviate some of the work
that we're doing internally as we map out CIP projects, staffing, wage comparisons.
Right, I think that's primarily should be your focus,
Yes.
and I'm happy to help David, research some of the background and process on getting this going.
Can we kind of do both at the same time, more or less? Can we?
I think that's what
can
we're
we-
talking about.
Okay, so we can.
Yeah.
We can give a recommendation
Yeah.
from the committee to the board to say, move forward with potentially the engineer assessment as we're exploring other options.
You're gonna
potentially.
need,
We'll need some of
what
their
David
information though.
suggests you're gonna need anyway, you're gonna need a roadmap or some possible roadmaps to get this
Yeah.
passed.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, nominate David.
Either way, we'll hit the ground running.
Before you go, any comment, any other,
The other comparison is we could, use CAL FIRE instead. It seems to be a general trend in the community of what are we paying for? We've got CAL FIRE that's coming out of Paso Robles and Morro Bay and supporting this local area is a costly event that CAL FIRE might have a better solution, but I just heard that, comments. We're not just comparing what you're doing here locally. If you're gonna overkill and wind up saying, well, it's gonna cost twice as much as CAL FIRE, you're not gonna get the loads. That's what I'm trying to get to here.
I already brought that up. We were talking about an RFP.
So you're saying investigate what it would cost to have CAL FIRE here?
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think
That's
that's,
okay.
yeah, we do that.
Yeah. I don't
So-
know,
so
and
bring this-
so that'd be fine.
Well, bring this to some closure here.
I didn't hear that comment as a
Same level of
specific.
Yeah, for the same level.
we're looking, yeah.
Now, I want to bring in public comment if any of you want to comment on this. I know the document that you sent, which I think primarily had to do with staffing levels. It maybe covers some of this, a little bit relevant to this, but does anyone here, any of you want to comment? Because we do have a space for public comment on the issue.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
comment.
Mr.
Yeah, what Chief and the GM stated, we couldn't say that any better. The point of the document, you're doing amazing work here with all of the things, planning, prevention, all that stuff. All we wanted to give you is, I know that you're a new committee, we're also new here. So we wanted to make sure that we could give you like a glimpse of, just a factual glimpse of what we're looking at for the emergency response time. So again, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I think I put it,
Yeah, go ahead.
whoever that, maybe chime in. Somebody else chime in? Okay,
No
so
one's coming in,
quick
nobody's
comment
coming in.
on the CAL FIRE thing is, just know with CAL FIRE, when you look that route, you're not gonna get people like us. You're not gonna get people who are here who know this community as well as we do, and that's fine to look at that route, but we are very well involved with the community. You're gonna see us out there a lot more. And you're gonna get better quality of service 100% from us. Like I've done drills with CAL FIRE, we drill with them, we treat them like they're our second station because we have to work well with them. I've been on many drills with them where they're hooking up hoses to intakes thinking it's a discharge, so be prepared for that level of service if that's what you do in the future.
And just look at this.
Your local authority is, the other benefit of having them here is who you have here. With CAL FIRE, crews come and go back and forth, that actually would delay response times, it would delay a lot of stuff because they'd have to figure out where they're going. To their own crew here, we know what we got, we know who we are, they know who we are, and it's just that much of a benefit to have that, just that full-time crew all the time.
And this was voted on
Yeah.
back in 2010 or something like that, and was soundly defeated.
Yeah.
Going with CAL FIRE.
It rears its head anytime we talk about this, and
I think
having worked for CAL FIRE, I know exactly how CAL FIRE works. I can be working in Cambria today and be sent to Napomo tomorrow,
Exactly.
and then Napomo engineer
They'll
will
be up
be
here.
told, hey, you're going to Cambria to work a shift.
Yeah.
They have no
no clue.
limits to where you could go. And, if our crews were absorbed by CAL FIRE and they started to save CAL FIRE, they could find themselves at Lake Nasmiano. So the local knowledge and institutional knowledge of the district would be effective without a doubt.
And I don't,
Part of the fabric of our community.
Absolutely.
The community has to vote on this.
What makes a community.
Exactly.
And I don't wanna,
Relationship.
so for me too, like, I definitely don't wanna, discredit CAL FIRE's ability to respond. They're a phenomenal agency. And I'll talk all day about the differences and how, again, I just mentioned at the very beginning how outstanding our crews are, and I only just scratched the surface of what they're providing versus CAL FIRE. And so I'm not, but at the same time, I think it's absolutely necessary to evaluate and continue to evaluate it and see what the cost is. And then, so I don't, but again, I will defend everything that these guys, because I'm there, I see it. I've seen it for many years. These guys see it every day. And so, the differences in, even on paper, if you look at the level of service, that again is just scratching the surface of what the reality is of what you're really getting. On paper, you can look at the cost, but everything we just mentioned, the community involvement, I mean, most of our guys live right here in our county. So, again, I could talk all day about that, and I don't want to discredit CAL FIRE. However, I think it's absolutely necessary to evaluate that for sure.
I have zero worries about that RFP coming back and being less.
Exactly.
expensive.
We can look even
Zero.
10 minutes up the road, Cayucas Fire, what happened with them? Not too long ago, they were very strong, very good, and all of a sudden, they said, hey, we don't want you anymore, and they just cut out the fire department because they thought it was gonna be more expensive, and they ended up with CAL FIRE, and I think it's costing them way more money than they had.
And you might be able to find a comparable cost with CAL FIRE, but I promise
Yeah.
you it would be 2 people on an engine.
Absolutely.
With no paramedics.
So,
Absolutely. Move on.
so let's get back to the,
Comment?
oh, sorry, yes, please.
I think, it's extremely important to invest in the Cambria Fire Department. Keeping people here, it's just key. I come from Los Angeles. You guys saw the Paradise Fire and the Altadena Fire. A lot of funds were cut, and that's a big city. They just spend their money wrong. And it's clear from sitting here and listening to how you guys are talking about everything. It's clear on the importance and what's going to be listed and what's going to be provided on, the money's not gonna get pissed away. And I think the big thing is communicating that to the community when it does go on a ballot issue. And I think your campaigning starts now. And you summed things up very perfectly, and somebody needs to go back to the video and get things when you were talking about Michelin A restaurant for McDonald's. And there was a couple more things you
No
said
discredit
after
to
that.
McDonald's.
You said several things in that snippet right there, that is a perfect promotional campaign. And your liaison, your community liaison people that you talk about informing the community about how to things, they're your boots on the ground that can be expressing to people the importance of what it means to fund Cambria properly, to keep people here so they're not leaving for the money. Because again, get to know your, local sheriffs, or we were in Temple the other day. We saw CHP and we saw sheriff, and people are coming up and then everybody knows each other, everybody's like, hey, so-and-so, giving each other hugs, That's important in a community like this for everybody. And I think your campaign is, of course, every day you guys are out in the community, important. And I think the big task is impressing upon the community members why they need to vote yes for something when it's on a ballot. And that campaign starts early.
Yeah. So I think there's no further comment or discussion. I think the question we have is fairly simple and hopefully, I think, do we want an ad hoc committee, first of all? And then would that ad hoc committee be tasked with, initially, looking at the mechanics and feasibility report, of the assessment model for raising the revenue, and how, whether it can be done, how it's done, what we need to do it, with the staff, and cost, obviously keeping in touch with us, the staff kind of determining its needs. Because I think we have a big unanswered question about how much money we really are talking about here. But we want to know about the mechanics of it, maybe the ad hoc, if we do need an ad hoc, which I'll let you guys decide. If we do need an ad hoc, they would just be looking to that initially, because Mr. Pearson was saying, is that kind of clearly define what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
To you? Yeah. as for who's on the ad hoc, I mean, I had talked to Mr. Luca, actually, I don't know if you still want to be on it. And Mr. Pearson, I think Tony's interested in it too. I leave it up to, I can leave it up to the committee a little bit, but I think Mr. Pearson should be on it, Dave should be on it, because, he's experienced with looking into benefit assessment districts on the finance committee, yeah. And,
I understand the benefit assessment.
yeah,
Well, it has a practical value and it sounds like it has
yeah,
process value
Yeah.
within the structure, so.
and,
I understand probably needs assessment, I just don't know if it needs to be a whole committee to just, the staff is gonna present the stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then we look at it as a full committee and make more recommendations
Yeah.
or whatever, I mean, I don't know if it needs a full.
unless,
ad hoc
unless,
committee or
unless this ad hoc can help the staff do this, the research, that I was describing into the, who's doing benefit assessments, what the engineering firms are, and so forth. If staff, if it's valuable to the staff that we do that at the ad hoc level, then I think it makes sense. If not,
I think it benefits us in terms of, it let us focus on the financial piece.
Right.
And then if that ad hoc does the research on other districts that have been successful, unsuccessful, and the different firms that they used. And they bring that information to us, that helps us create a better package to bring forward to the committee and then eventually bring forward to the board.
Can this be an ad hoc committee of one?
well, I mean, that's Mr. Luca, you want to be on it, because I talked.
He's already on another committee.
Yeah. Well,
So you just got.
yeah, I guess.
If you
Slam with
I
another.
don't think you need two, do you?
I
just need
Subcommittee and nominate David as the chair, vice chair, sole member.
He's got a lot of other work to himself doing.
I'll second that.
He does have all that
Second that.
experience.
will do.
And then we could, I mean, if Mr. Pearson needs more help, I'm glad to help.
And I'll help you.
And so, yeah, if he needs more help,
And what do you
Yeah, I
think?
can do that, I can just start if I need help already.
Okay, so
we can do that one.
committee of one, an ad hoc committee of one, that's fine. I think Tony, did you move that?
Yes.
And you seconded?
I
It's
second.
moved by Mr. Safford and seconded by Mr. Luca that David Pearson be appointed
So-
at this point as an
Meet with Bob.
ad hoc committee of one to help
That's what I was wondering, they,
research
get on that.
benefit
Yeah.
assessment, the benefit assessment model for fire safety budgets, and report back to the committee and also consult with staff.
Was there any public comment on,
I don't see any,
I
no.
was wondering.
Dr. Norris, of course, no one's here around commenting, so, I'll take a vote on that. I believe Mr. Stafford,
Aye.
Mr. Luca,
Aye.
Mr. Pearson?
I don't know, should I abstain?
No, I don't. You must have more confidence in yourself. Ms. Steinrich, aye, and Mr. Chapman, aye. Motion passes 5-0. Before we go, I made a mistake in, I missed something actually in the first part of the agenda. The subcommittee reports, the ad hoc committee reports, I don't believe there are any formal reports, but I had said, Ron had a report from an interview we had with Scotty Jalbert, he gave me notes on it last meeting, and I wasn't able to say much about it, but I wanted to give him a chance as, on behalf of the evacuation, subcommittee, ad hoc committee, to just say a few words if you wanted to sort of explain, but you had I had an hour-long conversation with him, as I
Yeah.
recall, yeah.
It basically comes down to, I kind of was, asking about like, Gordon was talking about the Marin County evacuation thing and everything. I kind of asked him his opinion on doing that in Cambria. And, he kind of emphasized that it wouldn't do us much good here, under the impression that we know our town, we know our pinch points for roads, we know all that stuff. So as a community, we would be much better off to have something, I don't know, maybe set up by the chief or someone to just, I think the liaison thing is perfect, is where you can take each little individual group and go through your pinch points, go through your terrible stuff and work it out amongst ourselves through the groups, and then, you know, the thing. If the county says it's divided into, you know, predetermined areas. Right now, there's 230,000 people all wanting the fire department and everybody and the government to help them, so. You know, it's coordinated between CAL FIRE, law enforcement, Cambria Fire, for our area. And the basic evacuation is just to determine the intent to move people from a dangerous area to a safe area. Based on the incident command and it is fluid situation, so these areas change and they often do, like, you might be, depending on where you're at, you might be sheltered in place and you might have to evacuate. It just depends on how everything's going. I was a little surprised at this, but there is no order as to who goes first. I guess we would establish that through fire. There's no order, like, do you do schools first, do you elderly first? He said there is no order from them. That would be coming from however we set it up. That was kind of surprised.
During the evacuation, no, yeah,
Yeah.
so it would be just through the zones would be the priority, and it would be set by the incident commanders. It potentially could be me, but most likely it's gonna be one of our fire captains that's on scene, that's going to determine which zones need to be evacuated.
Right.
And that would be the strategy,
Okay.
which zone would be in a warning, which zone would be in an immediate.
And
evacuation.
I guess I'm assuming that we have some form of, I think I know we do, but we have some form of determining, like, there's elderly and this person needs medical assistance, they need to go first, rather than, we do have something like that?
We don't, no.
Don't
So
really
we
know.
have there was talk of the evacuation assistance program, which we've advertised pretty. Matter of fact, according to the county, a little too much, because we kind of jumped the gun. We did such a good job of advertising it that they didn't have any real mechanism in place to be able to handle the level that we advertised it.
Okay.
We went a little bit ahead, but all that does, even if right now, even currently, I think they're moving towards a different program or improvement to the program, but right now it's just knowledge base. It's just saying to the county, saying, hey, this is what we have in this area. But again, it doesn't promise anything. It doesn't mean we're going to go target those people first. That was the entire intent, around the neighborhood liaisons, is to create it's essentially putting all of that responsibility on the community themselves, saying, hey, we know that my neighbor is disabled or elderly that needs assistance. And let's work to get them out. It's really kind of on the community themselves to leave early, to prepare. And that's kind of really the direction and the goal of the.
That's kind of what he ended up saying too, you know, the whole thing is basically the community needs to work together to find out their own, kind of set their priorities in order. That's why the liaisons are great. That was kind of the whole gist of the conversation, was the whole trying to do an evacuation scenario through them, he didn't see any value to it because, you know, so.
So I would have to respectfully disagree on that, just because I feel like there is tremendous value to our community as far as doing drills like that, not only to the community, but also it exercises the emergency responders as well.
Right.
And that's what we learned up in Mill Valley, was that that wasn't only for the community, but it was also for all of the agencies to be able to respond together. And so they could work and be a little bit more fluid and familiar on a more consistent basis. And so the sheriff's department was involved. I mean, every entity you can imagine was involved.
I would think it would benefit too, but he kind of was like, no, I don't know. So I mean, it's just his.
Remind me again who you were talking
about.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Well, he's had, and I've had this conversation with him many times, and he's had some bad experiences with it.
Okay,
And that's
and
where,
I think that's where it's coming from.
right, and I think I've discussed it with him and said, I'm absolutely listening to his input. I just feel, and that's another reason why we need to make sure we're strategically doing this, because we don't want it to cause more chaos or some sort of more confusion in our community, for sure. So I think if we're moving forward, we do it strategically. We take all of his input and where it went wrong, where it went well. And I think doing it on a smaller scale and more consistent scale will prove again to be successful.
That's kind of the gist of everything. I don't know if you guys have questions for me, I can maybe answer something if you had anything, but, and then I was just going through and found, I'm not even sure where I got this, but I found this little paper that says the 7 Ps of in case of evacuation, and they have list some people and pets, plastic, papers, prescriptions, pictures, personal computer, and phone. So those are the basic 7, and then there was, I think my wife found this just on, I can pass it. She found this, it's a list, it's a checklist for my personal emergency plan where people can put down all their stuff, and anyway, I just thought it would go with the evacuation, and so I have one copy of it. Yeah, I just brought it, thought that was kind of interesting, because I've never thought of that before.
The 7 Ps.
7 Ps of evacuation, in case the people, plastic, your credit cards and cash, your papers, important documents, prescriptions, pictures, if you want them, your personal computer, now you probably just grab your phone, but whatever's on. Anyway, that's kind of all I had. It was just to chat with him to see, how OES works and what they do and how they do it. And he reminded me and everyone that this always has a communication breakdown whenever you have an emergency. So be prepared to not contact anyone for like 72 hours, have your own food, have your own clothing. Be prepared for about 3 days of nothing. Nobody's gonna help you. Anyway, it's just a reminder. So I think that's kind of about it. So I don't know. Do you have any more questions or anything on what I said? Okay. That's
Thank you very
it.
much. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for your patience in waiting.
Yeah, no
It's important meeting. We have one more item, future agenda items. Does anyone have anything they want to?
Yeah, so
Have
next
brought up.
time, Mr. Harrison, can you update us on the evacuation plan and make sure that everything, I know you and Greg, Alex and others are still working on that, but maybe at next meeting, we should get a
Absolutely.
update. It might be pretty close to final by then.
Hope so. It's a task, but yeah, I hope so.
So, we have the meetings with the liaisons. I guess I didn't sign up as a liaison, but is the committee members available to go to that kind of a thing?
Anybody can.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I think one of our committee members is a liaison, so
Art, you're on.
I'm on,
Okay.
You missed
I know,
yesterday's meeting.
Huh?
You missed yesterday's meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
The meeting? I don't really know who ours is in our area at all, and I know.
How was it announced?
So it was announced at the previous meeting,
Oh,
at the main one, yep.
well, I get
And
not having a hearing.
The one thing that I did recognize is, it's on my calendar a million times, so it reminds me, so I need to be better about doing it. I'll send reminders this time for the next
I was
meeting.
gonna ask about that. So the announcement was made at the first meeting.
Yeah.
But this one, so we were looking for an email.
Yeah,
My wife's a liaison. She was looking for an email, and so I would suggest having an email,
yes, and
getting
that's,
an email list
yeah,
together, just
and
using that.
it's
Yeah.
been created, that's been created, so we'll make sure we get that out again, and that was my bad for not
Like
being.
Haley emailing, the agenda and noticing, these meetings, otherwise
Yeah,
I may or may not make it.
Yeah, that was my, I'll take full
My
responsibility for that.
apologies.
Not at all, my apologies, so I'll make sure I communicate that
I
better.
know that, I was just want to say, when when the new fire regulation or the weed abatement and stuff came out, people were calling me at home because they know I was in the fire. They're like, what about this new weed abatement? So-and-so said this, and I'm like, relax. Berkey has a website. But, so anyway, like, my area, which is, I mean, they don't know who to contact. So how do we find out who to contact people are for those areas? Like,
For the-
my question.
for the
liaisons. Yeah,
Well, hopefully the liaisons will contact you. You know,
okay.
we'll reach out. That's the point, is for them to be able to reach out to those respective neighborhoods. If you want to come to the meeting, you don't have to be a liaison to be at the meetings. You can definitely come to them. Matter of fact, right now, we're doing, as I mentioned earlier, we're doing the meetings in the neighborhoods that the liaisons were a part of. So Lodge Hill West, Top of the World, Marine Terrace, some of those areas we're gonna be in. Myself and the fire department will be out there, kind of doing the meeting in those communities and
Oh,
talking about everything.
Cause we're in a little.
That's cool.
Yeah.
HOA and I don't know, but it's all part of.
Yeah, your airport's
East
out.
side of, yeah.
Yeah, airport's out, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so, and we
Pocket
don't,
there.
yeah, I don't think we have. I definitely know Lodge Hill West has more of the liaisons in that area, and then some of them are, you know, maybe we have for that whole area. Well, I don't think we have anybody from Lamert. But so it's still a work in progress, and we're still in
Two
very.
people from my neighborhood, that, as far as I know, that's all.
Right, yep, and so it's a work in progress, we're still getting there, again, the communication is I'll work on communicating these better, and I think as it grows, and again, it's slow moving, because we wanna make sure we stay structured. And then we're figuring out where, what that kind of leadership and structure is. And so as we build on it, I think it's
So
gonna be more effective.
they will be posted to CCSD website when those meetings are, where they're gonna be. Can we do that or not?
There is going to be, we're creating right now a website
Okay.
for the liaisons. And so I
Okay.
believe there's going to be,
But if you're not a liaison, you don't get that information.
it'll be on our
It's
CCSD
on
website.
CCSD. Okay.
Yeah, so
It'll
you
be
can
open,
go
it'll
there.
be open to anybody.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, that's what I,
Yeah.
that was my question.
Well, that'll be helpful.
That'd be
Yeah,
helpful.
and email this for the liaisons, these for
Yeah.
notification.
Okay,
It's difficult, on some level, because we don't want to, if the liaisons want to communicate amongst themselves, that's
Right.
perfect, and we recommend that. But I can't give your information
No,
securely, you know what I mean,
I
to
understand,
everybody,
yeah.
so it's gotta be on an individual basis from us.
right,
So.
okay.
So any more future agenda items? We had the one, I guess the one we have on the dock for next time is gonna be a report on the evacuation plan in June.
I would like to add one if
Yeah, oh, sure,
potentially.
sure.
So several community members brought up to my attention that they were wanting to see the feasibility of updating our fire pit or fires in Cambria ordinance. Just to see what that looks like. And so I wouldn't mind just kind of discussing that at the next meeting and see what your thoughts were on that.
Sounds good. Yeah. That's the one where you can't have open fires, right?
Right, there's regulations in there that say you can, but under certain.
And it's very
Yeah,
limited circumstances.
yeah, and so they were, what was expressed to me is they were, wanting zero fires, zero time of the year, so. I just wanted to discuss that and see what everybody's thoughts were on it, and then bring my thoughts on it as well.
Good question about the fourth. Did we have much of a problem with fireworks, legal fireworks?
We got reports of a lot of them down by the dog park area. I don't know, did you guys respond down to them?
I can speak on that too. Yeah,
Sure.
we went out and patrolled. There were fireworks going off and we had calls in. So we went around looking and we were going to notify people that they can't have fireworks, but every time we got to them, like we saw them down at the dog park and we came up with a form of flashlights and they got out.
Scurried off.
So kids, no incidents that transpired from that, and we went around like throughout the evening. So started sporadically around 6 and then stopped around, I guess.
I could speak a little to that. I wasn't on duty, but I come from a former agency where we had, fire department was in charge of doing illegal fireworks and stuff. You can't sneak up on people in a fire engine, like, that's just part of it. And you can't leave the fire engine at the station. You have to have your tools with you at all times, so kind of hard.
Yeah, I just raised the question because I wonder if it's, do we think the warning, getting the word out that fireworks is illegal here and it was adequately done, do we ever prevent that level of fireworks, illegal fireworks use? I mean, it sounds like it was pretty limited, but I always had the question of whether we're doing enough to just warn people of that this is a very dangerous place to have fireworks. Not just this is illegal, it's very dangerous for wildfire. And if the signs are great, prominent signs and stuff, I don't know if we need to do more. That might be.
The one area that we could, and I was talking to Bob Putney about the CERT program. So Pass Rules is doing a great thing with their CERT program. They're doing a teen training. So they're going to the schools and training. Matter of fact, I saw this week, and I think this Saturday they're doing a Pass Rules Station 3. They're doing CERT training for teenagers.
For what?
For teenagers.
Yeah.
And so, and so I think that's probably where this needs to be geared if we're gonna do fireworks safety. I think most of the adults, at least our community members understand that. We might have visitors that don't. But for the most part, what we're seeing, or at least from what I've been told by the sheriff's department, is most of the time it's younger
Yeah.
children that are kind of, you know,
Yeah.
kind of breaking that. And so maybe we can gear towards that. But I want to remind everyone, I think it went out pretty well, but just if there is any incidents, just like Captain McGill said, it's impossible for us to get to where we need to go. And it's even the sheriff's department's doing the same thing. But I would, if there is any incidents where they feel there's a problem, the sheriff's department would be the appropriate person to contact. Unless there's an immediate life threat and they feel that it's necessary, then that would be 911.
Yeah, okay, great. Well, thank you. No further agenda items are proposed. This meeting is adjourned at 12:20 p.m.